got it. I will skip that for now, not relaunch in the middle of the presentation. All right, let me get through a couple of the beginning slides. So WebFOCUS 9.3.0. So let me go back just a quick view. So I'm going to cover a couple of our product statements and directions, show you guys the summary of the new features in 9.3, and then we're going to talk in more detail about some of those features overall. And then I will switch over to Dirk at the end, and Dirk has some excellent demos for you on a couple of these features. So let's get into it. So product theme and direction. So IBI overall, we follow these 4 themes. We've been following them through most of our 9.x series. And so that continues with 9.3. You saw a couple of these things on that slide that Tim was sharing on some of the trends that are in the industry right now. And so just to quickly go over these, the cloud and containerization, a lot of people are moving into clouds or using hybrid environments. And so our goal is to support that and work with you on that and make sure that we're providing for you the ability to do whatever mix of cloud or on-prem that you want to do, whether it's all in the cloud, all on-prem, or some combination of both. Moving down in the integrated data science, for us, data science is such a big topic. We're working, putting a lot of resources into our data science areas overall. So things with real-time data analysis, predictive capabilities with our machine learning functions, and more. Our unified authoring tool, we are putting everything into Designer so that whenever I want to create something in WebFOCUS, I want to go into Designer to create that thing. So a lot of our workflows there are smoothing out and having more unified workflows across the entire creation experience all the way through. And we're going to talk about a particular area of that coming soon. And then last is tailored usability. This one's kind of our catch-all for all the other improvements and updates that we want to do across the whole product. So this is things like modernizing our UIs for critical capabilities like Reportcaster, customizing the experience for all of our user types, whether that's a really code-heavy developer or a more UI-based business user, whatever it is. And then extending customization of our UIs as well for embedding capabilities too. So how do those things map out to our features in 9.3? So here is a list of some of I would say these are our high level list of features for 9.3. This is not every single feature. You can go take a look at our release notes if you want to take a look and see what every single feature we added was. But some of these themes that we have, what are some of the features in there? So I'm going to go over these in a little bit more detail, but just to quickly name off a few of them. For the cloud and containerization, a new thing we are providing is we're able to ship pre-built container images. It kind of gives you a kickstart if you want to get into the containerized versions of WebFOCUS. And then also a migration utility for when you're moving from maybe an on-prem environment to a cloud environment or to a containerized environment, or even if you're going from one on-prem environment to another on-prem environment, this migration utility should help that process overall, making sure that your configurations and your settings all stay the same and also giving you warnings of the things that will have to change because you're going to a new environment, what that looks like. Then in data science, the NLQ output that we have visualization output for NLQ now in 9.3, and Dirk is going to do a demo of that. So I will just let him show that to you a little bit later. And then also on the insights or instant insights, a couple of updates there around performance and being able to remember those insights and reuse those insights over and over again. Then in Designer, the biggest thing that we did in Designer is creating brand new UI canvas for creating designer portals. Is one of our last major workflow items that we had for Designer. So you could create charts and reports, pages, maps, compound documents, and now we finally got portals into that mix as well, a brand new UI canvas for that. And then something that's really exciting for you long-term WebFOCUS users is the content that you had originally created in InfoAssist, your charts and reports that were from InfoAssist, those can now open directly in Designer as well. So in addition to adding all these cool things to Designer, we're also giving a focus on being able to take your existing content and bring it into Designer too. And then I'd say my favorite feature of this release is the modernized UI for Reportcaster. So brand new UI, um, it, directly in the hub, really just making the whole Reportcaster experience easier to use and stylized along with everything else in the hub. So let me go into a couple more details on these. All right. So here's a screenshot preview of that portal designer, new portal editor I mentioned. Doesn't do it justice. Like I said, in here, it's a brand new UI. It's a new experience for users. Also, your existing designer portal can open up in this UI as well. No migration or needed, no adjustments to your existing designer portals. They can just open in this brand new UI. It's drag and drop functionality, the same that we have across the rest of our designer tool overall. So being able to take content and pull it into the portal navigation areas, setting up different levels of navigation, reordering things in that navigation, everything that you would want to do for a designer portal is drag and drop functionality now. Switching over to authoring content, our compound documents or the composed documents. So these are formats like PDF or PowerPoint, and Excel is sort of in preview right now with 9.3, is being able to put multiple pieces of content into that document. Animation here of being able to put images, charts, text as well into these documents, position them however you want, whatever size you want, whichever layouts you want, and then have that come out in the output. Let's see, the newest thing, I think it's on the next slide. So the newest thing in here is being able to coordinate pieces of content in that compound document as well. So when you have multiple pieces of content and say you want to burst them in Reportcaster, that works really easily now with the coordinated functionality. Also new support for headings and footings in that document mode. And last one here is being able to have embedded type of content as well. So I can create those charts and reports directly in the document. I don't have to have them saved elsewhere in my repository already. So also in the authoring area of Designer, one of the, I'd say, frequently requested features that we had, so trying to satisfy those requests that come in from our existing customers, is being able to have some of our set commands available in the Designer UI directly. So some of these commands, you may have used them in focus language because they weren't available in Designer. Things like empty report. Do I have an empty report display back, or do I throw an error message when the report is going to be empty? Things like the CDN, do I have commas and dots for my currency, or what other options do I have? Lots of options in here. The screenshot here is just a very small picture of that list overall. And then also, we added some new output formats, so some of the unformatted or unstyled formats like XML, JSON, and some of our existing functionality that you had in InfoAssist was things like the table of contents, pages on demands, accordion reports. Those things are now available directly in the Designer UIs. And so why are all those things important? It's because of our next thing. So being able to take your InfoAssist charts and reports and open them directly into Designer. So if you've been kind of with us across the 9.x series overall, you'll know that we've been talking a lot about closing the gap of functionality between InfoAssist and Designer. And so we're at a really good point now where we can allow you to take that InfoAssist content and open it up directly in Designer and have you work on that piece of content in Designer moving forward. So fields, stylings, headers, other customizations are all preserved. There's whatever you were creating in InfoAssist in previous releases, bring it into Designer moving forward. Okay, so switching over to the mapping side of Designer, we did a couple of small enhancements here, being able to set different icons for different series within a map, also some styling updates for the themes, and new support for drill downs from maps as well. And yeah, that was it for Designer. I'm going to skip the demo for the second because we're going to come back to that a little bit later. So let me go into the data science and machine learning side. So I mentioned instant insights. So we did some improvements for instant insights in the 9.3 release. So in 9.3, you can now submit your request to generate those insights. You don't have to wait for them to generate anymore. You can say, hey, go generate my insights. And while you're going to generate them, I'm going to go work on something else for whatever length of time that I want to work on something else. And then whenever you're ready, you can go back to them and see them again once they're ready. You have kind of this status update view where I can view the status of the various insights that I've requested. So I can view ones that are ready to go. I can see, is it still in progress? It's still generating. If I haven't requested the insights yet, I can say generate my insights. And then we also give you timestamps as well, so you know the last time that they were generated. This is really useful, especially if you're going to be creating insights on more historic data, maybe data that is always a week old and isn't going to change because I'm always going to be looking at the week that was or maybe the first half of the month. So I'm looking at data that's from May 1st to May 15th only. That data is not going to change May 16th, 17th, 18th, and onward. So I can generate those insights once and keep using them over and over again over the next days, weeks, whatever, and not have to spend that time to generate them again. So also on insights is when you're creating insights and you're generating them, maybe you're getting a lot of them back. And so we wanted to make it easier to find the ones that I want overall. So we added the ability to filter insights based on the field that is involved in them. And also a tile view, you can see more insights at the same time. And as opposed to a single column, you kind of had to look one by one. And yeah, just more options where I could switch between that list view or tile view. Yeah, and see, have better usability of once those insights are generated. And then the big one in the DSML area is that visualization output in the natural language queries. So natural language queries, for anyone who hasn't used it yet in WebFOCUS, is being the ability to ask questions against my selected data source in natural language. We've had for a couple of releases now the tabular output or the table output, where it just gives me back a table based on whatever question I asked. But sometimes pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? So sometimes it's easier to see that graph output. So we offer a couple of options for different chart types overall. And we try to be smart, knowing which one is the best to show your data, but we recognize we're not experts and don't assume that we know everything. So if you don't like the chart type that came back, you can always switch it to a different one instead. Or if you like that tabular output, you could go to that as well. All right, and Dark is going to have a demo of both of those features coming soon. So, Reportcaster. So like I said, a brand new UI for Reportcaster available directly in the hub. So you can see here some of the changes that we made overall. So this affected the schedule dialog, the distribution list, the access list, and we're going to continue working on all of those Reportcaster interfaces across all of WebFOCUS moving forward as well. So these are integrated directly into the hub. I can see my schedules, open them up, work on them, don't have to worry about new tabs, getting 5 or 6 different tabs open of the same schedule, not a concern. And then also some improvements of the workflow in this as well. So the recurrences tab was one that we paid special attention to overall, trying to improve the workflow of that so that it's really clear when I'm setting this up, when is this schedule actually going to run next, and what's the date and time, how often is it going to run, and everything. And then something small that we kind of snuck in alongside all of these UI updates is that we added additional support for OAuth 2.0 authentication for the SMTP configurations overall. So again, this was another customer request that we had, was support for that authentication type. So we were able to squeeze that in alongside all the other UI updates. All right, only a couple more slides on my side. So in the WebFOCUS Hub, one update that we did was an improvement to our language settings. So when you're setting your language across WebFOCUS, in the past, you kind of had to go to multiple steps or multiple locations to set a language there. So we decided that's annoying to have to go to multiple places to do that. And so now you just set it in one place, and it's going to take effect to all of the pieces to your environment, client side, reporting server, and so on. And then also the migration utility, I mentioned this once already. And so the migration utility overall, the biggest piece here is the analyze portion of it, where it's going to go through and look at your configurations, procedures across your reporting server and your client repository. And when you're moving from one environment to another, it'll flag out for you and say, hey, in this maybe in this master file, you have a hard-coded path to a file that exists on the D drive in a particular folder location. When you move all this content to a new machine, that path may not work anymore, so you're going to have to look at it and maybe remediate it when you move to the new environment overall. Also, things like hard-coded host names, port numbers, things like that that you would have to remediate when you're going to a new system. Those things will get flagged as part of this analyze process. And for now, we also have the ability to export all of those things up, and we are working on the ability to import that into a new environment as well. All right, so then on the cloud and containerization side, I already mentioned we have the ability now to ship our pre-built container images. So if you want to get a kickstart into using container images, this is a great way to do that. We also added a new command for collecting logs across multiple instances in a cluster. So when you're using the containerized version, maybe you have 3 different reporting servers that end up running across the image size overall. And so being able to collect logs across all of those environments at the same time. And then a couple of other smaller items, support for an external Solar search, some additional dashboarding capabilities, and some more deployment flexibility as well. And I think, Joanne, I'm about to switch over to you to talk about Data Migrator.
Excellent. All right, well, you guys all know that inside the packaging of WebFOCUS, you get Data Migrator. So I want you to go run out there and use this product because it is awesome. And we have some really great features that have been introduced in this 9.3 version. This first setting, no SSE privilege, is the ability for the administrator to turn off the ability for end users or basic users to not edit the SQL. I'm sure that we would like to keep them inside the tools for them to create all those extractions and inputs. So this is a great way to make sure that they're not actually editing the SQL that gets created. The next one is really augmenting and enhancing the functions that can be applied to a SQL database. So now these functions such as depart, replace, and token, which are really popular functions that we use today, actually get pushed right to the database for enhanced performance. And you can see we've made many enhancements to these adapters to take those additional functions. A lot of this information is now in the summary and new features, and you can see which databases are affected by this and actually support the additional SQL functions. Down below, data retrieval, we actually had enhancements to about 20 different adapters. These adapters have been optimized to take either additional functions in or optimize in some way. Those are all listed also in the manual, but there are some significant improvements even to the big data adapters in this release. So it was really a big push to get these optimized for using with Data Migrator in addition to WebFOCUS. Deep fix processing, that's when you take those sequential files and create metadata for them in a sequential way. So anything that's comma delimited or fixed delimited, you can now create metadata for and use in your Data Migrator flows. In addition, we've taken and enhanced the ODBC connector, and that ODBC connector now supports Unicode API. So that is a nice enhancement if you're using the ODBC. And then we also reduced the memory requirements for big data, BigQuery adapter to load the data sets. This is actually a big, like it says, BigQuery. It's a big database. And so we've kind of give the ability to kind of squish down the memory requirements when moving big sets of data into BigQuery. I think the most significant feature is this merge and upsert support. Not upset, upsert. But when you want to go ahead and put data into a database and you want to check to see if the records are there, so you want to insert if it's not, you want to update it if it's already there, that's what upsert is. So we are actually modified the adapter for all these databases here, merge and upsert, for these to take in instead of them actually reading and then going in once again putting it into the database. It's really an optimized way to put information, and these databases do support it. And so we made changes to our adapter as well as Data Migrator to support it as well. The last one is really just some minor enhancements around the merging of statistics. Whenever you put records, insert them into the big data Google and as well as Oracle, we capture those statistics and also show those to you when you're looking at your statistics for loading. And the last really is gzip encoding. When you're using a BigQuery data adapter, it actually allows you to compress the data for better and smaller moving in that data in order to put it into BigQuery. So once again, really focusing on some of those big databases, those databases that you're using for data warehousing, and all these enhancements to this adapter, in Data Migrator. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm going to hand it over to Dirk to start our demonstrations.